All right, folks, rates are up, prices are on the way down, and houses are on the market longer today. You're going to find out what you need to have in your quiver to get your home sold and learn about accelerated marketing coming up with the home luxury auction queen herself, Alicia Chmielewski, and real estate luxury sales expert Maria Howard. Coming up next on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. That's right. Just like Mattress Mac, guarantee is on right here today, Cliff's Notes. So it's the luxury home auction girl. Did I say that wrong?
You got it right. Perfect.
I got it right
now.
Oh, I did?
Yeah,
oh, just
this is
now?
great.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Just to make sure. And you know these lovely ladies here to my left. They have both been on the show before, but never together. And they have teamed up to create an incredible marketing plan to help people get their home sold. C3, are you excited?
There's a lot to unpack here.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
I am. We got a lot to talk about. Trelvis, I got a quick question for you, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna have a quick answer.
Can we get back and recover from that last Green Bay game?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
That's the quickest answer that I can give. I
All
sure
right.
hope so.
No money on the game, though. Not yet, huh?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at
Okay.
all. 2 pennies.
2 pennies. All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's get right to it. I think the Cowboys could benefit from accelerated marketing at this point. I don't know. They got to figure something out.
Everybody can.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we're going to start with, as many of you know, we at the Cliff Freeman Group, we try to do the best that we can to help get your home sold at above market price and either below market time, market average time, or in a time frame that works for you. And in order to do that in a market like we're going into now, it is super important that you have all the skill sets and the tools available at your disposal, because this market could get a little bit choppy with some headwinds coming forward. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into our topic today and talk about auctions, ladies. And Alicia, you've got a long history of experience. You and I first worked together selling a house over on East Rick Circle that had been on the market for 2 years for three and a half million, something like that. And it just took a matter of a couple of weeks for you to get that one wrapped up for the next owner with a bow on it. You want to just you want to just recount that one for a minute here, and that was the smoothest thing, the first auction I'd ever done, and it was smoother than my beard at 5 years old. That was pretty smooth.
That was an excellent experience, and it was such a pleasure to have had the opportunity to work together with you on it. It was a home that had been on the market for quite some time, and what we do is we create a competitive reason for buyers to actually come and drive price to market value in a short period of time. So I like to say that an auction is an accelerated marketing experience that consists of an auction if you make it to auction. There are some people that do not want to be seen. They don't want anyone to know what their offer actually is, or maybe they want to say, I want to be able to close sooner or later than whatever the auction terms actually provide for. So we encourage them to make a pre-auction offer. It's either accepted, rejected, or countered by the seller. And in this situation, we were a couple days from auction and we got one that was acceptable to the seller. So we canceled that auction, and that home was sold in a matter of probably 3 weeks.
Right. So there's a number of ways these things can end.
Yes.
Right. So sometimes they go all the way through and you hit the gavel and you have the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And the money changes hands, and then other times the seller says, "Okay, I'm happy. Let's go ahead and pull the auction and go from there." So that's interesting. Now, Maria, you've been selling luxury homes with our group for a number of years now, and done very well. you were dealing with kind of a unique situation with the house, and
Right.
we're looking for
In the Grove.
in the Grove in Frisco, and we're looking for some ideas about how to help the sellers accomplish their goal. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you chose to use the auction process with that home in particular?
Absolutely. It's like you said, Cliff, this is all about, especially in markets like this, adaptability, right? Being able to take those inflection points and make them your own for your seller and address whatever issues. This particular seller, the house, and I think the kind of house that you're auctioning is very important. The dynamics around the house, where it's located and all that, it's important. This particular house happened to be a brand new build in the Grove. They had never had an opportunity really to live in it. And we were under contract in the late summer. That fell through, in August. But so we had an appraisal that was, really in a really high appraisal. And because an auction brings about for the buyers a sense of, it does bring for us a sense of urgency, expediency. This seller wanted to be able to sell before the end of the year, and here we are in October. So his thing was, Maria, can you get this thing sold for me in the next month? And I was like, oh, geez, okay, yeah, I have an option.
Right.
And an auction was a wonderful idea for this particular kind of home, because with so little time to do the due diligence, this buyer would know it's already been through inspection, it's already gotten appraisal, it's brand new, it's never been moved in, it's under a builder warranty. Now, not all properties have that. I'm just saying you just have to evaluate the characteristics and the benefits that your property brings. So for us, that was that, and let me tell you, it's been pouring.
Well, in fact, we've got a little sample. I guess maybe we should go ahead and roll that. We have a little video here that you did. It was okay, and now we'll take it to Maria out in the field.
Yeah, this is the beginning.
Do we have that one, Charles? Can you roll it? There we go.
We're holding an open house for my listing, 15788 Foliage Road in Frisco. Did someone say there was a downturn in the market? I can't see it. All those cars all the way to the end. They're for us. All those cars. Lord have mercy. Okay, so gonna go inside now. And let's just check this out and see what's going on. This is, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. This is in the Grove, Frisco. The high school is Liberty High. That doesn't hurt. And I think I'm gonna have to go around this way. Lots of people upstairs as well. And this is just an hour in to this event. Plenty more events like this to come, possibly. I don't know. We're getting so much good feedback and lots of great vibes on this one. Yay!
All right, back to Maria. From the field to the studio. So tell us about what that was. At what point of the whole process was that? You said it wasn't the first showing?
It was the second.
Okay, so just lay it down for the audience who've never experienced how an auction works.
Yeah, you have a sort of a period of time leading up to the auction within which you get the marketing out there, and the accelerated marketing is incredible. It's really hard to describe. So I'll say that probably in that first week and a half, I personally fielded about 400 phone calls, and we had maybe 200 showings. And then we had the open house and houses where that happened again. And so that's when I say it was actually what a wonderful picture there. It was actually pouring rain, and it was pouring
that
people
wasn't the best
as well.
weather to be doing an open house, right?
They didn't seem to care. Then you have the auction, the live auction, and I guess from my understanding, because this is the first time I'd ever done it, Alicia, but you generally want to optimally sell, to the highest bidder at the auction. But there are times when a seller, it's up to the seller at the end of the day, right? May want to let things breathe. We did have several offers that evening after the auction, so we're still accepting offers now. We probably do something about that in the next few days, but so I guess there's a give and take with auctions. And it's always important to talk to the auctioneer first in advance and know what the ins and outs are, the benefits to your property, what you should look out for, what you shouldn't do.
Got it.
What it
Okay.
looks like.
Yeah, because these are in Texas. Just because you have a real estate license doesn't mean that you can do an auction, right? Alicia, what are the qualifications? What do you need to have in order to be licensed to have or conduct an auction?
Well, I think that is going to truly depend on each jurisdiction, and each state is very, very different. But in the state of Texas, yes, and for most auctions, it does require that you be a licensed auctioneer, which I am one. And so, yes, you're dealing with that. There are exceptions to the rule, such as like a foreclosure auction, which is not something that we do. But, there are exceptions where, okay, maybe an attorney might be able to actually auction, or the bank themselves.
Okay.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
at the same time, you definitely want to make sure that you're experiencing that particular type of auction.
Right,
There's some
right.
that specialize in collectibles. A collectible might not be your best auctioneer for real estate.
But
Right.
if a realtor thinks that they have a good candidate of a property for an auction, and when they talk to you, can you give us kind of like, can I ask her a question?
Of course.
A brief idea of what that realtor should look out for, or should be cognizant of, including, there's a starting bid. Do you do a reserve? Do you not do a reserve? That kind of thing.
Okay, so that is a very detailed question.
Yes, I
there
know.
are a lot of parts to that, and that is
That's
a lot is going.
That's a good reporter right there, asking the right questions. Yes.
For
Just
sure.
give you
Yeah.
a 3,000
sure.
foot view. There is a starting bid, and you should discuss it first. And
Right.
yeah.
So each auction's going to be different. Okay, so it's very important that if it's an agent that's contacting me to discuss what an auction could be done for their particular property, we're going to go over all the details. And being truthful and upfront on all matters is very helpful in recommending the right strategy for a successful auction and sale. So we want to make sure that we know, is it a distressed situation? Because if it is, it's probably not going to be a good candidate. Is there reasonable buyer, is the seller reasonable? Are they expecting market value in a reasonable way? Or are they saying, I want $2 million for this house when it's really worth $1 million?
Right.
That would not be a good candidate for an auction, because you will see market value in a very short time frame. But what is value? It's what someone's willing to pay. And so you can drive price to the highest amount by getting everyone that's willing to pay something in a room competing against each other until the last paddle's left standing. And then you've attained that. But if those goals and those expectations aren't reasonable up front, it's not a good candidate.
And so I know that the general thought would be that the objective is to get as many warm bodies in the room as possible, right?
100%.
But isn't it also that you do it in such a way that you ultimately end up with the right warm bodies in the room?
Of course. Of course. So the one thing that I really like seeing about your open house, and I know that was just one of numerous, is that you've got anyone and everyone there. So as much as, yes, it accelerates the marketing, it also creates a sense of urgency that might not otherwise have been there. Because
FOMO.
Yes,
FOMO, right?
FOMO, fear
Yeah.
of missing out. It's real. And you get everyone in, and one buyer versus another buyer, doesn't know the difference between a real buyer or a nosy neighbor. And so now they're afraid they might lose it. So it inspires them to take that action that, sitting on the market for a couple years, they might not be as urged to.
What's the expectation on the part of the auctioneer throughout the process? Because like I said, I fielded that much activity, and then that's not even counting the showings, and it's not counting with the auctioneer, but how does that look?
So each auction's going to be totally different. Each auctioneer, each auction company is going to handle things differently. So what might be the correct answer for one particular could be totally different from another. So I think that it's important, whether you be on the listing agent side or the buyer's agent, that you really need to pay attention to the terms and conditions. What is the marketing proposal that has been presented? So that way you know that answer up front
Sure.
versus get halfway through and be like, oh, I was supposed to do this, that, and the other,
Right.
or I wasn't.
She's absolutely right about that because I had a real learning curve with my first auction.
Oh,
I have
my.
I have had a wonderful outcome in terms of, as a realtor in my business. It's in the stratosphere and it's wonderful. I always worry about my seller, and so the verdict is still out, but it's always a good experiment because we had the right property. We'll always have that right, that the property is it's got its value and we know that, stand behind it. So, but the experience was incredible. I think I'm that much better now than I was before.
Well, yeah.
Yes, I remember the first one that we did, and oh my gosh, it was so eye-opening.
Lots to learn.
Yeah, I mean, you see this, everybody's bought something on eBay, right? I mean, everybody is at least are aware of eBay. And it's
Good
that, again,
analogy.
that fear of missing out. And one thing we were talking about at lunch here was C3 brought up that, when people get into an auction, you were specifically talking about the ring that you bought yourself, beautiful ring
yes.
at auction. But at the end of the auction, you were somewhat disappointed with yourself because what did you do?
Well, first of all, I know auctions inside and out
What did
because
you
that's what I
do?
live. But at the same time, I don't like losing. And I was so close to winning. I just needed to increase my bid just a little bit and then a little bit more. And I'm like, it can't be that much more before I actually win this. So I paid full retail value, but didn't get the warranty because, I just
But you
I
just
might
wanted
get a
the ring.
deal.
Right.
I
This is
got
an
the
emotional
ring.
buy.
It was an
Listen,
emotional buy. and-
Girls just want to have fun,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, but it is part of it's the entertainment value of the auction,
And that's
and then
why
you get
people get so
emotionally
excited.
tied into it.
Yes.
Right. So we call that the eBay effect.
Yeah.
Right, where you just get sucked in, and sometimes the seller gets the better deal by doing an auction.
Right.
Okay, write that down, sellers.
Writer downer.
Okay, that's a writer downer for sure.
But
Yeah.
also, I would say for realtors who enter into their first auction is to be prepared. Is that the right camera right there? Or, okay. To be prepared in advance. I don't know how it was for you with that auction. Didn't it just escalate? I mean, it just gets really,
It
really...
was so easy because Alicia did everything.
She did
everything. All I did was show up, talk to the seller once in a while. Yeah, things are going great. We had 300 people through this weekend. Everything's awesome. Man.
Well, I'm gonna have to hire up a little bit because
Well,
it really
so
does
yeah,
escalate.
but let's talk about that because
Yeah.
this was a $3.5 million house that we were doing, and then yours is a 900.
Mm-hmm.
So Alicia, your original auction house that you were with is Elite Auctions, and you specialize. You're like the Christie's, the Sotheby's, the whatever the big auction houses
Luxury.
that do high-end luxury.
Like fine
homes.
art or fine
Like,
vehicles.
Right. What was the one you were in Maryland? You were Kevin Clancy's.
Tom Clancy.
Tom Clancy's
Tom
house,
Clancy.
right? Yeah, just briefly tell us how that worked.
So that one was on the market. It may have been off and on a little bit here and there for about 7 years.
Okay.
And everyone obviously knows Tom Clancy. He's an incredible author. And it was an incredible home. It was at the penthouse at the Ritz-Carlton, right on the Inner Harbor. Absolutely stunning. There's nothing like it. There's not one across the hall that you can say, this one sold 3 months ago for X, so that makes this one valued at X. So you don't have that.
So that's why, okay, so let's just pause there for a second. This is a great coaching moment. If the value is in question and you don't have comps, then the auction is the best way to determine the value, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay. all
And
right.
I like to tell people that even when sometimes sellers and even listing agents, they just think, oh, we'll just get an appraisal. Well, unfortunately, that is an opinion of value.
Right. But
Is
they're
the
not
appraiser
writing a check.
willing?
Yeah.
Is he going to write a check for
Right.
it? If he's
Yes.
not, then
Yeah.
it's good for nothing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
But at the same
Because a
time,
lot of it is driven by emotion
it's driven by emotion and it's driven by need.
and the peculiarities of the property or the distinct features.
Right.
Right? So,
Yeah.
So the
It's
nice
unique.
thing-
Yeah.
Like if you had a 1942 Lamborghini, I don't even know if they were built back then, maybe 57. How about that? 62? Classic car. You're not going to put that on Auto Trader, right?
Right.
You're going to take it to
good
the
analogy. Yeah.
the auto car auctions, the high-end stuff, and get it done there. Okay.
Exactly.
So you actually got this house sold.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So we created a fear of loss. We set a deadline versus most, and I'm going to say most homes in general, a lot is actually controlled by the buyer. So is the buyer willing to pay what they're asking, or are they not? And so the seller really doesn't have much like say in when is it going to sell, when can we actually move on, when can we take our proceeds. So we set a deadline. This house is going to sell on or before this date. This is the auction date, and we invite everyone through. And so
wow.
it creates a sense of urgency that causes action.
Well, it creates certainty also for the seller.
Yes.
Because the uncertainty is when the house is on the market for 2 years and you've been wanting to move and downsize or whatever, and you just haven't been able to do it. But like you said, when you put a deadline on it, then it creates that sense of urgency. It's got to get done, and certainty for the seller. So that's a great thing. You know, especially in Texas, the contracts are really, the promulgated contracts are really written in the favor of the buyer. The buyer has 38 ways to get out of a deal. The seller has none when they're under contract. So, without breaking the contract itself. So that's really an advantage for sellers. Why do you think that more people aren't doing what Maria she was really on top of this when it came to using the right tool for the job? Why aren't more real estate agents using auctions in this kind of a muddy market here that we're in order to get homes sold? What's the deal?
And that was the reason too, because it's such a crazy market. We had to do something.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, there's unfortunately a lot of people that are uneducated and then don't really fully grasp, what the concept is. In Australia, in Sweden, auctions are how you sell homes. They don't have like a little MLS where you just put the property in and let it sit there. That is very common. So here, the higher price points, it's a bit more common, but not everyone is familiar with how it can actually be utilized in their own business and for their own clients. They just think of what they know and haven't delved into more. So I do a lot of educating.
This is a wonderful thing to stand next to an iBuyer. An iBuyer is going to pay wholesale. You can create the same sense of convenience, the same sense of certainty and everything that an iBuyer does, but deliver the product at a retail value to the buyer, as opposed to the wholesale value of an iBuyer. I think this could really, if we as a group really work to understand the mechanics and how to implement this, could replace a lot of what iBuyers are doing, because it's essentially the same thing, except you guys are going to be able to drive higher values because you're selling to retail buyers. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
it's a huge market.
That's a great point to make. I think that it's really it's the thing to come. A lot of people don't understand auctions. I didn't, and I'm gonna do it again for sure. I'm sure, especially with you, Alicia.
I'm excited about this.
And I think the most important thing is to get, as in all situations, to get a bona fide expert auction. It's important who you work with.
Right.
I'll just tell you that right away. It's extremely important that, so you create that sense of urgency, but in terms of the processes, creating a deadline is a good idea too. Almost a very important part of so that's my piece. That it's I think we're going to see more of them. We've been seeing more of them.
Yes, and just a side note here, and I'm not going to mention any names, but if you're selling a house and you're going to get an offer from Mark Spain, you better call Maria Howard and let her see if she can beat that. That's all I can say.
I promise you, I guarantee you. Look, pause and smile.
Pause and smile. We're going to get to that in a minute. Alicia is now a published author, #1 worldwide bestseller, right? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So auctions, what is it? We talked about the upsides. Let's just be transparent here. Are there really any downsides to doing an auction? Is the seller going to wind up selling his house for $1 if nobody shows up to bid?
No, we're not eBay. Although we might have the eBay effect, we're not eBay. We don't start auctions at $1.
Okay. No, you don't. Okay. All right.
There are protection measures that are built in. Sometimes that's an opening bid. Or opening bid incentives. Sometimes that is just where we actually open the auction at. So that's why it's very important that we're all transparent from the seller standpoint and the listing agent letting us know what is reasonable, what's expected, so that way we can see whether or not it's a good fit.
Expectations.
As far as other downsides, I would say that a lot of times, and I say a lot of times, there are some times when a buyer may not be ready to move forward. Would they have bought it if they weren't ready anyway? Of course not. But I mean, you do have to make sure that your finances are lined up. So a lot of times if you are going to be financing, I recommend a conditional approval. That you've
Okay.
already been through underwriting, so that way you know for a fact that you can move forward and agree to the terms and conditions up front.
Okay.
And so
all
you
right.
can make a confident bid.
So what you're saying is there are obvious, and we had them, auction imposed absolute things that you must do and be prepared.
Yes.
If you're going to bid, you have to show me that you're serious.
Right. If
which
you're
makes it
tire
very
kicking,
different. Right.
like forget. So is that a downside? Not really. It's more certainty for all involved.
Yeah.
But that is something that might be a little different. You might not be able to negotiate a really long lease back. You're doing that up front and you're disclosing it to everyone.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. So is there a buyer questionnaire? How do you vet the buyers?
So a lot of times the buyers vet themselves. So there is terms and conditions for any auction, whether it be fine art, vehicles, cars.
That's the truth teller.
Vehicles
The
and
terms
cars.
and conditions.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the truth teller.
Okay.
For sure. And
That's the truth serum, huh?
so you don't even have to go forward and as an agent, as a buyer's agent, you should be representing your buyer and know what they truly are qualified for and whether or not this is a good fit for them. But at the same time, if you can't agree to these things, you shouldn't be bidding. You can come look all day long. That's
Right.
fine. But
You know, and I think also it comes down to education. So the more we have these, the more educated our real estate contingencies will be. And I will tell you, I was surprised at how many realtors. You can forgive the fact that you don't know, you've never done an auction, but I put specific information inside private remarks. It's a home that is well documented. I've got the appraisal in there. I've got the inspection in there. Every little thing is done. Explain that it was a brand new home, never lived in, that kind of thing. And they call me all the time, asking me the same things that were inside. Well, I didn't pull up. And here's another thing. If you see a property that has all these features, all these attributes at a certain price in a place like Highland Park, South Lake, the Grove, and it shows $500,000 because there's no way to distinguish an auction price. You don't know what the auction is going to be on the MLS. And for compliance reasons, you can't really spell all that out in the overall description. You have to do it in private remarks. As a realtor, you have to think and be able to communicate to your buyers. You're not going to get this house for $500,000. That's not the point. It's a bidding process. So this is where it starts. And best you get in from the beginning or start in a serious way if you really love this house right away. You know.
and there's always opportunity.
Right.
And, the bidders are going to determine, how great that opportunity truly is.
And I think more brokerages should invite Alicia to their symposiums
Yes.
and really talk about, because like I said, it's an emerging thing. Every
Well,
time something like this happens, we have to adapt.
I'm going to go on the record right now, Rachel, if you're listening. But we are going to do an event that's centered around auctions. Maybe we'll do it at the same place we had Josh Altman. But I think that's a big enough thing that we as an organization can contribute and add value to our colleagues in the business and other agents to help educate them, because we've really got a great opportunity. I think back on that iBuyer thing with all those people that are going to be, I hate to say this, but Open Door just lost $1 billion. Zillow Offers is gone. Poor OfferPad, love those guys, but their stock is approaching penny stock level now, and there needs to be something fill that void. And I just think this could potentially be a better offering because it's going to get more for the seller than what the iBuyers were willing to pay because they had to make a spread, right?
They can compete with the average buyer.
Yeah.
The owner occupant. Everyone can
with
compete
more
together.
urgency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the mechanics and the structure of the deal, so there is a listing agent, there's a buyer agent, there's an auctioneer. how does that all get wrapped into the same transaction? If I'm the realtor on the deal, you're the listing agent, Maria, like you were, is there anything different that I do in an auction than what I would do if it were a straight normal sale?
Well, in my situation, it's the same. When you make an offer, you can make it, it's on a Trek 1 to 4 with all the addenda attached to it. Good idea to call me and let me know what your offer is going to be that you're going to make, and then if there's special language for special provisions, which we did, having to do with a buyer premium, then I give that to them and you put it in there. If there's special things that they just need to understand and know, you're going to have maybe a tiny bit higher earnest money or something, then. But other than that, it's the same process.
Is there any difference? What about in terms of marketing? Alicia, on the high end, we did a really super nice video for that property. That was over the top. It was really, really awesome. What degree, what level do you go to as you get under $1 million, say? What's the investment cost to the seller at that point?
So that, again, is going to depend on the actual auction that we're doing, and we're going to work on a strategy for each individual auction, so it may be different from one to the next. So there is no blanket answer. This is always how it's going to be for everyone. We got to do what makes sense.
Yeah.
What makes sense, and so we come up with a custom proposal for that specific seller, and for that particular property.
And that's another reason why it's so important which auctioneers you choose, because they're.
Right.
Yeah, she's going to be able to look at a property and eyeball it and say, might I recommend?
Yes.
Right.
Which begs the question, will you be the pool girl at all of these auctions?
That's what I was getting at before.
If you don't
Been
know
there,
the story,
done that,
if you don't
but
know the
no.
story. Yeah. So I got a picture of Alicia. She actually borrowed a net from Candy Evans, who was Lee's neighbor across the street, because Lee had some leaves in his pool, and
It was
we were
the day after a storm.
Yes.
The storm
There
had
was
come
so
through
many
and he was
leaves.
out
Yeah.
of town.
Yeah, and we were shooting. Was the video? No, or was it the open house?
It was the video.
The video,
We
yes.
had video and photography.
Yeah, and so I pull up, and Alicia's out there in her shorts and T-shirt with this big long net.
And it was a huge pool too.
Yes, yeah.
no.
It's like an Olympic-sized pool, right? Big one. And,
the sacrifices.
but Lee didn't have one because he has a pool service company, and they didn't come by. So you actually, because you knew Candy Evans,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you actually
Thank
walked
goodness.
over to,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
our
it was
good
such a
friend
blessing.
Candy's
Well,
dirt.
so
Hi,
that's a
Candy.
testament to the sacrifice that the dedication
Well, that's what I was
and
saying.
commitment.
Yeah, I mean, you actually did everything, and that was what made it so easy for me.
So in that video, I actually started off that day with curly hair, but I was just like, oh my gosh.
That's too
Gone.
funny. Wow.
Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the glam was gone at
Yes.
that point.
Yeah. But that is one thing I will say is, especially on the higher end houses, you take the marketing seriously.
Oh yes, very
I
much
mean,
so.
the two guys that came down, they have a long history. They were also in the news business
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And the guy that was the actor that did the primary part in there was almost as good as me. I mean, it was really incredible.
Almost.
Whoa!
Yes,
Out of nowhere, I had to say that.
Clifford
No,
Freeman, the homeboy.
cliffordismyhomeboy.com. That's right. Go sign up today. But it really was, that was just an over-the-top
Yeah.
job of marketing that house. It was really wild.
I think I remember that video too.
Do you?
Incredible.
Blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the one he was kind of winding down the staircase and talking and
Yes.
then peeking around
and
the
then
corner.
he got on that little raft in the creek.
Yes.
You remember that? Yeah, that was
Yeah, that
really,
was
that was
phenomenal.
something. So that one turned out, as I said, great. You travel all over the country.
I'm all over,
don't you?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm based here in the
Right.
Dallas-Fort Worth area. So if you've got anything here locally, I can actually come with you.
Okay.
In
Oh,
addition
that's
to
true.
like just a phone call or a Zoom call, but
Mm-hmm.
but we'll work with what we have to work with and do the best we possibly can.
On that note, as we say, in changing times, that we have to learn to adapt. So it's my responsibility as a listing agent to find all the tools out there available. Like when it was seller's market, we had to do that for buyers, right? Tell us about so we've been talking about the luxury listings that you do, and that's what you specialize in, but you've also now broadened your reach to
Yes.
below the 900 range, possibly, depending on the house.
Yes, if it makes sense, we probably have a program for you.
See? So it's important to know. So for the realtors out there that are saying, but I don't have a listing at $1 million right now.
Yeah,
or
if you
900."
don't, and if it's something that you're considering an auction, just call me. Just call me and we'll let you know whether or not it is a good candidate or not, and then be able to move forward with an actual proposal of something that would make sense.
Can we say sold?
Sold. Yeah, start packing.
Yeah,
Right? Thanks,
random-
Mark. That
random
came
question.
from Mike Gerbic. What?
Random question. Is an inspection required on an auction?
It's not.
No. Have you ever sold a house without an inspection or an appraisal, or just
A lot of times.
a lot of times? Really?
Cash
Now, I
deals,
will
yeah.
say that when it comes to an actual auction, and again, review the terms and conditions, but in most cases, the home is being sold as is, whereas there's no option period. So what that means to the seller is when they've sold it, they've sold it.
Got it.
Right.
Yes, you have 30 days to close, for instance, but you're not going to renegotiate during the option period. You're not going to nickel and dime for repairs or outdated
None of that.
whatevers.
Right.
If the buyer or bidder wants to have an inspection, sometimes I do encourage a seller to have one up front, so they have
Pre-inspection?
all,
Yeah.
yes,
See,
so
I was-
they have
That's what I
all
was
the
just
information up
thinking
front.
too.
Yeah. Certified
But-
Would you
pre-owned.
recommend that a
Yeah.
seller
Yes.
client get it pre-inspected before
And,
doing the
and
auction?
market it as
Yes.
a certified
And it's-
pre-owned
that's
listing.
it.
Yeah.
That's
And
what we
that's-
did.
Yeah.
That's what we
You
did
did.
for ours. Yeah.
Okay.
That
Just
is
saying,
what I like
You
to
want
see.
it. Has to be before you make the offer.
Because I mean, think about what happens when you don't know. Like, you suspect the worst, and
You're gonna
so
price that in.
you're going to factor that
Yeah.
into your bid.
Sure.
And so, if it's something that's nominal,
Yeah.
then that's good to know that up front, because then it gives a buyer a more confident
Of
bid.
course.
Right.
Yeah. It's like buying a car.
It
You're
takes
going to
all
pay
the
more.
objections off the
You'll
table.
pay
Right.
more for a certified pre-owned than you would a car that was repoed, for example.
It's going to net you the
Right,
higher
something like that.
return.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
presentation is important, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Staging, what
If-
you do,
If it looks bad, then
sells bad.
bidders are going to factor that into their bid.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
People want to walk in the door and just see that they can move in.
Yeah.
Moving right.
And
So they
you
know
know
within
what?
8 seconds. I mean, people know as soon as they walk in that front door, it either hits them or it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emotional.
And you
Yeah.
know, and it doesn't go for all, but like for all situations, sometimes people just want the lot, and that's okay too.
Yes.
But
found that out.
We did find that out. Yes. We sure
so
did.
so do the best that you can with what you have, but at the same time, just depending on the situation, with questions, ask me. I'll
Yeah.
tell you whether you're wasting your money or not.
Yeah.
Do you like for the seller to be there at the live auction?
It depends. And I'm going to say it depends. It's probably 50-50. And the reason being is that it is very emotional and stressful.
Right.
And so I've had probably 50% that are just like, oh, just be on the phone with me. And the others that are like, okay, we want to be there. But I'm like, but don't talk. Let me do the talking.
Right.
Don't say anything.
Right. Just
If
all
you
the-
start talking about your animals and your exotic animals that ran through the house, it's probably going to be a detriment to you. This happened once.
Oh, wow.
Exotic
Yes.
animals.
Yes.
I'm sure
Oh,
that was an
gosh.
interesting story.
Yeah, I think it made the bidders a little uneasy.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Must have been.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, no. Okay.
Well, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, Alicia, what's the best way to reach you?
they can reach me either through their listing agent or they can reach me directly at 214-326-1875.
Would you say that one more time?
It's 214-326-1875. You can also find me at luxuryhomeauctiongirl.com, and that is my handle on all things social media as well.
Excellent. And I do want to take a minute. We're just about at the end of the hour here, but I wanted to take a moment and just talk about your book, Pause and Smile. This is something that you wrote. It was on your heart
Yes.
to write. Who was this book for?
So this is for someone that is going through a hard time. For me, this was something that I was encouraged to write, having gone through a tough time with the divorce. And, you know, what did I do to get through from my own testimony or my own experience in rediscovering my faith, as well as, okay, these are kind of activities that I would journal about. Like, okay, if I focus on this, what memory comes to mind? And so there's a daily guide, and basically for a month.
Okay.
You can turn to whichever day of the month you're in or use it however you would like, but it'll give you things to contemplate and ponder that will help you to realize how much you have to be thankful for and all the happiness that you really are experiencing in your life.
Wow.
Being thankful, so important.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we talk about that a
likes
lot, and gratitude and
Being a stoic.
You know, yes, gratitude will overcome fear every time. That's awesome. And if somebody wanted to get a copy of this, where can they get a copy?
Amazon and
Amazon.
Kindle.
Whoa.
Amazon and Kindle, big
Right.
time.
Tell me when you get
All right.
to the seventh day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to check it out and
Yeah,
find
so
out for
you have to
yourself.
read it for
Oh,
yourself.
day 7. Oh, wow. Okay.
Hey, stop peeking.
Oh, sorry. Peeky. All right.
Maybe
so
you
pick
have-
up a copy of Pause and Smile at your local Amazon book dealer. Right?
Congratulations.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Trellis.
you.
Let's do that one more time. You got it. There we go. Pause and Smile. And
Love
it's
it.
I used to call you Chmielewski
Chmielewski.
forever, and I didn't realize it's
I respond to
Chmielewski.
everything.
So my bad, but thank you guys. And Maria, it's so great to have you back
Thank you for
in the
having me
studio, and you were just killing it in your second career here, and we're so excited to have you working with us, and
It's an
just
honor.
have seen you grow like crazy.
I
It's
can't
just-
help
it's
it
been
by
awesome.
being under the Cliff Freeman Group. Can't help to grow.
Well, we're super excited. It's going to be a great year at TCFG, and we're going to be rolling out a lot of new stuff. I'm so excited. Just the auctions, man, are going to take front and center. We're going to come screaming hard at this. So if you're in real estate and you want to learn more about this, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. We're going to put something together and get these two young ladies to really just unpack the whole deal here, so you'll have a blueprint on how to do these auctions. Can we agree to do that for these folks?
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's coming. I mean, it's coming.
Awesome.
So.
Sounds terrific. C3,
Yes, sir.
back from Denver. Man, good to see you.
You're on the other side of the table today.
I know that. We could
Yeah.
play paper football on this thing.
We
someday,
could.
huh?
We
Yeah,
could.
but glad you got off the mountain
Yeah.
without breaking anything. in
No
Denver.
falls, no
Yeah.
broken bones.
Let's see, you hit Breck, Vale, and Beaver Creek, right?
Yeah.
Not bad. Not
So
bad.
from golfing to skiing,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Pretty cush life,
Yeah, that's well,
Yeah.
you work hard and you got to play hard
You got
too,
to enjoy
right?
it.
Yeah.
That's
c'est
it.
la vie.
Yep. Speaking of working hard and playing hard, we're not going to be here next week. You know why?
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
It's
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. So we're thankful for you guys. So grateful that you will be here watching us week after week. And I promise we'll be back after Thanksgiving with more great Cliffs Notes. You guys just stay tuned. We'll see you then. All right, folks, tune in to Cliffs Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it.